So why don't you tell us a little about the inspiration behind your wondrous madness?
So as I said, yeah, I wanted to when I do these orchestrations, I always try to find out from the directors, if I can, ask them, and if they do share with me the conceptual framework for how we're approaching the piece. That's the starting point for any of these orchestrations. So for this, it was this idea that there's all of this illicit desire under the surface that Tchaikovsky actually really wrote into the music and into the story, and his own life story, which really maps onto this in a very interesting way. And so the question was how to, and I had to juggle all these things, I had to balance a lot of things. One is, how do you do the score? Because there it is. I mean, this particular pieces, from one piece to another, Rossini, for example, like some, bel canto, 19th century stuff, like I feel, even Mozart, I feel more capable of really departing. For Tchaikovsky, it's like, well, it's beautiful. I mean, yeah, we heard it. And so I have to capture that, and it's some of the best music ever written. And every time I listen to this, I'm just like, wow, he's reserved. I love in this piece how, and I'm sorry, here we go. I'm just going. Here we go.
Go.
I love in this particular piece, like Tchaikovsky. For me, this is a really intimate piece, and I wanted to capture that intimacy in the orchestration, and I feel like Eugene Onegin, one of my original ideas for this was just actually having it done with a string sextet. Even a string quartet, I don't know if a string quartet could do it. I think a string sextet could do it. But the idea of just chamber music and just like this really the softest possible sound. And then of course, huge moments as we just heard. But I felt like in whatever orchestration I chose, I really needed to capture that. And then of course, chatting with Dustin's like, well, I think, what about guitar? What about, I really need a little horn in there, right? And I was like, all right. So then I go back and then I come up with round two. And so I wanted to kind of map as I talked a little bit about at the beginning, map our ideas about what's happening in the story and just what is happening in the story. It's these women at the beginning in this rural village that are just caught in these cycles of what is expected of them. And so I wanted to have that kind of be like the Tchaikovsky score in some way. So it's play, harp and strings. And then as these new ways of looking at, yourself, your desire, life come in, that's when these other sounds start invading the score. So I wanted to kind of pit those two worlds, and there's going to be maybe a third world that we've just started to explore a bit in here, like the kind of folk quality, and so I'm going to have, hopefully, a balalaika with the guitar, and that'll come in very close to the beginning as well, so you're going to hear different sounds like that. So there's the kind of romanticism, there is this folk world, and then the world of desire. And so those three are kind of trying to intersect in this version.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Any questions?
No, because I was always so curious about that. You don't think electric guitar, Tchaikovsky, right? So it's really...
Tchaikovsky, you definitely think electric guitar.
But I did want to just poke about it and just get into there for a second. About at what point do you feel you're moving more into almost like a composer perspective as opposed to an interpreter arranger, right? These are such radical orchestrations in a lot of ways.
Yes, I do think of these as exploding out. I would consider these, the process that I use to create these is the same as compositional process, except instead of a blank paper with lines that have no notes on them, as a composer, it's those lines have some notes and guideposts. And so then it's just about finding the sound and the means from getting from one place to another, much in the way that I would in a piece that I had to come up completely from scratch. But for me, it's really about hearing. I listened to recordings when I first look at the piece, you know, a year ago, whenever we decided to do it, reacquaint myself with the music, which I knew fairly well, and then I put those away, and I am sitting there playing through the music, and mostly, actually, not even, I play sometimes the piano, but that's, it's useful for some things, but then what I really do is sit there and listen to it and how I hear it in my head, and how can I bring out some things that are in Tchaikovsky's score, some things that I think, you know, would be really interesting to kind of put in conversation with Tchaikovsky's score. So it's really about listening from my own ears, you know, and I've been doing these for 10 years now. So I think with each one, you know, I come in with experience from the previous and also fresh kind of wonder as I do with any piece. Yeah.
So we're all in a safe space, and everybody here came out on a Sunday, so we're going to ask you some more squishier questions. What terrifies you about this process?
Everything. Getting it done on time. No. I think it's the most terrifying moment. Really, is often like the beginning of the day at a day like today, or the first rehearsal with the band, the sitz probe. Although at that point, because that's the moment, as you know, as a composer or an arranger, like listening to your music, that's the moment where you're like, well, it's in my head. Now I'm gonna have people play it, and like actual humans have to like deal with the music that I wrote. And it's always that like, uh-oh. Like I'm always like, uh-oh. Like for the first few minutes, I'm like, okay, well. But then I have to remind myself every time that it's like, you're always like that. You're thinking about a zillion things. You're like, oh no, I have to change that. No, I have to change that. No, that's the wrong orchestration. No, that's wrong. As everyone gets used to the sound world of it, like and we get comfortable, and it starts actually sounding like more what I imagined. People freak out at the beginning, and they stop freaking out, and they play the music. Then I could actually like be like, okay, it's sounding kind of like what I imagined, and now I just have to tweak and like, you know, think about it from as meta level as I can without getting in the weeds of every second trying to like control it. But yeah, I mean, I think that. What else terrifies me? That's what I can think of. If I think of something else, I'll interrupt.
Sure. I'm just curious, is there anything about this specific process with this piece that's any different from the last 10 years of adaptations you've done in other works?
You know, this is interesting. The one thing I've noticed about this piece is that, like, for Puccini, I feel like I have to, like, extricate. Like, I'm just like, oh, like every moment, you know, for Tosca, I'm just like, oh no, like, okay, yeah, he's orchestrating this chord for like 20 instruments, and like 5 people are playing the tonic, and 5 people, and it's like, oh, geez, how do I like separate that? For Tchaikovsky, actually, it's very, as I said, I think it's really like, what's the word, like crystalline, in a way that's like really easy to get into. And it feels very much like, oh yeah, like this is how it kind of makes sense, and like it's, I don't want to say easier, but it flows more than some of the other pieces that I've done. Even like, because when I did Verdi last year for Lady M, whenever I do that, it's like always these, you know, triads. It's like kind of harmonic. His harmonic language is generally just like, you know, 1-5-1. Sorry, Verdi, but like with some other stuff. And so for that, it's like limitless possibilities. And so as an arranger, I'm sitting there like, oh God, like how am I gonna? All right, well, D major. You know, someone's gonna take the D, someone's gonna take the F sharp, someone's gonna take the A. Who's gonna do it this time? So at every minute is like kind of excruciating. And so for Tchaikovsky, it feels like it's. I don't know, there's something about it that's more of its own animal, that's like moving how it wants to, and again, it's really, I just love the intimacy of it. That's really what I'm kind of, one of the things I didn't say about this score is that I'm trying to make it more like chamber music in these pieces, they didn't really give a full sense of that because a lot of them were the big stuff, but more of a like, and now it's a string quintet playing alone for a while, and now it's like harp, you know, cello, and clarinet or something, so that there's more chamber music kind of like flowing around the group. So hopefully, what I say now, you know, catch me on that in April, hopefully that will happen.
I do want to take a moment just to also, we should always do this every time somebody wins an award, but I want to just congratulate Dustin on his award. I'm going to ask another scary question after setting that up. What's it been like working with somebody like Dustin who comes from the theater world, right? And is working in this opera space, and what's that been like for you as the great reimaginer of this piece?
You know, Dustin and I started doing this actually before Heartbeat was born. We did a show in the Berkshires in 2014, summer, like right before we did our first thing, which was called A Lover's Tale.
We didn't choose that.
And we did not choose the title, or the poster design, or the program information. Anyway, but we, or the cast. No, we kind of did. But no, it was great. It was a Traviata that I then arranged for piano, clarinet, saxophone, and guitar. I think that was it. 3 instruments. So like that, so we've been doing this kind of thing for a while, and I've been working with Dustin for, since 2000, since he played Hades in a show that we did the El Cabaret called Basement Hades in 2012 spring. So we've done many things together, and so we have kind of a language of working together. And today he was like sitting there orchestrating the piece. He was like, nah, oh no, the guitar, they're not doing it for me. No, try harp, literally. Or like something, the bass at the beginning, making sure that I played that note that you really liked. But for this piece and for this process, Dustin is someone who has a big spirit of devising with the team, with the cast, with the designers, with the music team. Everyone in the room is part of creating this piece, and so I have no doubt that I will get into that rehearsal room having finished the orchestration prior, and then being like, and Dustin will be like, is the sax playing there? And I'm like, no, she needs a break. He'd be like, no, the sax needs to play there. And I'll have to go back and like rewrite the thing. But that's part of creating a new work. We always think of these pieces as world premieres of classic works. Part of that is really creating the sound world for the specific production that Dustin is directing, that Jacob and Dustin are adapting. So it's always a back and forth, and it's always based on, drama. At the heart of what we do is about telling a story and creating theater. Always. We are a theater company whose medium is opera. And so that is what we've always believed that for 10 years, and that is what we do. And so if I have to change a note because Tatiana needs to fly off a swing here, and it needs to be, I have to change the note.
So as part of that collaborative process, which I think is so valuable and why I'm excited about being with this company, and I ask this not as as a fan and not from an executive director standpoint, but when is the work done? When is it locked in? Is it the day before everyone here gets
opening night? No changes. No, actually, I think in opera there are changes. I think there are changes after opening.
Yeah, second performance.
Second performance is locked, actually. We 1 year we tried calling them previews. No one knew what to do with that word. In opera, no one knows what a preview is. So we've now, opening night is opening night, but there are changes after opening night. So yeah, it's never finished. If I'm doing this again, if we do it again, which I hope so, anyone in the room wants to remount Eugene Onegin, just come, who to talk to. At your venue, that happens to be, beautiful and amazing. I will always look again at it. It's never really finished. There's always I'm sure I'm going to be at the final performance of Eugene Onegin and be like, really could have used more harp in this second. Oh, guitar, wrong sound. Nope, wrong sound. So I'm always listening. It's just a habit, and I don't know. What is it? Trick of the trick. Yeah.
What did you learn today that you're going to add to? What can these people look forward to?
More electric guitar. Actually, we turned it up a bit. I'm like, yeah, that's the... No, but I think I learned a ton about the sound world. What's really useful about doing this is we get to the first rehearsal with the band, it's 3 weeks before we put the show up. And so there's not much time to really bathe in the world. And so what's great about this is like I am now able to be like, okay, this is the sound world, we've got it, now I'm going to now make it more nuanced and figure out how that can develop through the whole opera and be surprising. There's gonna be a lot more surprises than just what we heard today. I think it's gonna be like kind of really sonically super varied and incredible. And it's, yeah, for me now it's really about having that sound in my head and then I can already go in and do this, be like, okay, what worked particularly well about this in my story? Like, how can I then do more of that? And like make the things that I'm still tweaking into something that really is solid. So that's what I'll be doing.
Great. Let's ask you some stuff about, for anybody here who doesn't know you as well as some of the others. Why did you choose this incredibly lucrative career that is rearranging classics?
Oh gosh. I don't think there's any other company in the world that is doing this. I don't think there's any other place that I could do this. I also don't think opera will survive as an art form if it's just done over and over in the same way. It's very beautiful to go see Eugene Onegin at most opera companies, but for me it's just an opportunity to bring these pieces that have kind of been frozen in time for many different reasons. And some of that is good, and some of that is amazing that we can go see all of that. But we have a really good opportunity in a small setting to bring opera and have it reflect our time and have the art kind of like resonate with issues that we are all dealing with in our day-to-day lives, particularly in Eugene Onegin, but in everything we do. So I think why not then explode the sound world? And you know, we're used to also seeing opera staged differently to varying degrees of success. In Europe, it's more of a commonplace thing to see kind of really wild and crazy things done to the staging of it. But still, generally, you hear the operas the same way when you go into an opera theater in Germany. They sound the same. So I was like, well, why not just like get in there? I mean, it's public domain. It's not like these people are not going to come out of the grave. Well, you know, Tchaikovsky, I don't know what he's talking about. But I think he would like it. No, it's for me, it's about using it's theater, using all of the elements at our disposal, all of the elements to create a drama and to reframe the piece, to make people hear it and to see it differently.
Thank you for that. I'm going to ask you two more questions, and I'm going to open it up, so please start thinking about anything you want to know about Dan that doesn't involve his childhood, because that would be weird. When does it, no, I'm kidding. When does, you know, this music is incredibly challenging, and I say this as an orchestrator. I was looking at your parts today going, you're asking a lot of these wonderful musicians, especially at 10 a.m. on a Sunday morning. But has there ever been an experience where somebody has just gone, you know what, this is just too hard and too ambitious, and what's that conversation navigation been like?
You know, I think in terms of technical difficulty, like hard, like this is too hard, you know, I think people are just really, when you give them a challenge, like people will rise to the occasion and play it, like play their, you know, patootie off. And we've had that for 10 years. And when you like encourage them, like Jacob and I, when you encourage them to do so. And also what I find is really important in that, a little side note that Jacob is doing a bit today, is that when you're actually playing with them as another musician, like yes, conductor is great, we need that, we need them, conductors are great. But I find that it is, in the sense of like communal democracy, everyone's kind of in this together, I really love playing with them just to be like, well, I'm actually dealing with this score that I wrote as well as you are, and so we're all in the same boat. But that being said, like I've had some incredible conversations with people that we've worked with for years, some of whom are on this stage, about stamina, because when we cut operas, singers, we have to deal with this a lot. When we cut operas, you know, generally, we cut all the stuff that's between the leading person's arias. So it's like one aria, okay, the chorus is cut, so they have to sing the next aria. Lady M is a great example of this. Like pretty much, we just put all of her arias in a row. And so you have to deal with that. For players, it's actually similar. So like there's issues for wind players. There can be issues that I've had to deal with of people being like, you know, I'm not gonna be able to play this thing here if I don't rest for X amount of time. And so as I've done this more, like I've gotten to know that a bit better. So that would be one thing that I can quantifiably say. Otherwise, like, you know, people are really game to do whatever, and it's kind of, as you pointed out, it's like, well, that means I can just keep going crazier and crazier. Harder and harder.
And I appreciate your candid response to all this, but my last question for me, and then we'll open it up, is what is the opera that you're most excited about doing in the future? What's like your big, yeah, this is the thing that I want to get dirty with one day?
Do I say my real answer or my fake answer?
You pick how you want to do the big reveal.
Well, we've always said we want to do the rig cycle, obviously. So we're looking to start our campaign for that right now.
Not yet.
But I think to do that would just blow everything. And to do it in the way that we do, which is like real adaptations of it. Because again, Wagner's the ultimate person that like you can't touch. Because like he was the one who did that to opera. He was the one who's like, you are sitting in the dark, it's gonna be really hot. There is no AC back then, or even now in Bayreuth, and you are watching my opera, and no one's talking at all. So like he was the one, or whatever. You are going to only applaud when I'm coming up on stage, or whatever it was. And so to like attack that, I think is going to be really amazing. And of course, you know, I really hate to say this, really hate to say it because it's like, but I think Tristan and Isolde would be amazing. That's my favorite opera, so I probably one day will do that, hopefully.
Well, there was some quiet and yes, so I think you got your endorsement.
But I hate that it's kind of my favorite.
Well, thank you, sir. It has been a joy. This is my, my first time really seeing this kind of work from this end, and it's just wonderful.